I often deal with business owners who are blindly going down a path, and it sounds very, let's say, heroic that that they're never going to give up. But sometimes you push it too far. You've got to know when the end of the road is
Breaking
there.
point.
Tell me, because you said a minute ago about obviously parallels with business and not giving up. I guess there's the old expression in business of never giving up, and the right time to give up is never, etc. But I also believe, from a business perspective, that never give up until it actually is time to give up.
Yeah.
And this is normally a mistake that I guess earlier stage business owners, not necessarily earlier stage ones, but people who've never been through something utterly catastrophic and detrimental. And
Yeah.
I mean, my backstory involves a very spectacular bankruptcy at 27, 28 years old. And I actually look back now and think that I was lucky it happened to me.
Right.
I probably didn't feel it at the time and didn't feel it for a few years thereafter. But I always very much believe that you only learn from the things that go wrong, not from the things that go right.
Yeah, so true.
And it's these it's these formative experiences that give us the knowledge we need. And often and particularly in business, because I always say that there's no there's no kind of scoreboard. Okay, there's the money, but there's no skill scoreboard or let's say intelligence scoreboard in business to kind of sort the wheat from the chaff. And someone who starts in business yesterday, today is a business owner, and they kind of, in their deluded minds, most of these people think, well, I own a business, therefore I'm a business owner. It's probably a bit of ego, a bit of pride and delusion, but they're very afraid to go and ask for help and I guess ask for assistance, find mentors. Whereas if that was a sporting context, you wouldn't say, oh, I bought a football for the first time yesterday and I'm going to go and have a kick around with the boys from Man City.
Yeah.
Because it would just become completely obvious. You would never in your life be there, never mind tomorrow.
Yeah.
So these things that go wrong in business, you probably never get the chance to experience, or hopefully never get the chance to experience them. So what I find so often with people is, because they've never gone wrong, they have the fear factor, the fear factor of, well, I've got to go down this route because if you've not experienced it, you don't have the certainty. If you don't have the certainty, you don't have the confidence.
Right.
I often deal with business owners who are blindly going down a path, and it sounds very, let's say, heroic that that they're never going to give up. But sometimes you push it too far. You've got to know when the end of the road is
Breaking
there.
point.
I've got it with a client at the moment. A guy, historically very successful guy with a fantastic business, who's managed to absolutely riddle it in debt. And it's got to a point now where he's hanging on for this one deal to happen, because if this one deal happens, it pays off what has become literally tens of millions of pounds worth of debt.
Shit.
To get him out of the hole. But the problem is, every day that goes on waiting for this big deal to happen, he's causing irreparable damage to what is a core decent underlying business.
Right.
And I've been trying to say to him, right, listen, we need to have a conversation so I can teach you how to take the good parts of the business that you've got left and effectively sideline it over here, and then make sure you've got something that's protected, so that when this new money doesn't come in, when this deal doesn't happen, you've got this business protected here. Because every week that goes on, you're doing more and more damage to the point that it will ultimately be irrecoverable. And I keep saying, so what's your backup plan? I don't have a backup plan because this deal has to happen. This deal has to happen.
Yeah.
And so listen, I get it. Believe me, no one's more motivated and fearless in these business situations than I am. But sometimes you have to be realistic and accept defeat on something.
Know when it's enough.
Because otherwise you're never going to be in a position to actually keep this and move forward. And I guess the analogy to that in the stuff you do is it's death, isn't it? You push and push and push and push until you can't push. And when I've gone off on a very long ramble there, haven't I? But
no, but
are there any circumstances that you can think of to draw some parallels from there?
Oh yeah, plenty. And I think even in the Gobi Desert, the way that I was pushing myself, and it turned out to, I was kind of competing with a speed allocated time that wasn't there, because with that it was just, I was attempted to be the first person. It wasn't a race, it wasn't a speed record, but I found myself rushing. I found myself making up my own timeline and saying I have to get to the next point before this date. And that was a load of bollocks. I didn't need to do that. I didn't need to compete with myself to that level. And I almost died because of it. And I learned a harsh lesson. And then, after that, I started to top up more with my water. I started to take my time and listen more to my body, because if I did push and I was focused on speed record, then I would have died trying to do it and it would have been game over anyway. And same with the malaria one, I guess, listening to my body and having that plan B of, okay, if tomorrow is no better, I need to just hold my hands up, admit defeat. I get myself to the nearest city, because what's the alternative? You know, it's death. And that sounds like that is business. What's the alternative is business? It's bankruptcy, isn't it? It's gonna fail. And I wonder if that comes through just doggedness or gambling too much and taking risk after risk after risk. Like, why hasn't he remedied it yet? Is it because he continues to take the risks?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Well, it's not remedied because the deal he thinks is going to happen is absolute fairy tale. It's never happening. Yeah. And if he was, I wouldn't even say if he was more experienced, if he was not emotionally attached to the situation that we're talking about, he would be able to, like, if you were telling him that story and it was nothing to do with him, he would say, Ash, you're a fucking lunatic, mate. That deal is never, ever, ever happening. But he is so invested and emotionally attached to this situation, because if this deal doesn't happen, the knock-on effects are so catastrophic. It's just making him have these blinding glasses that think it's going to happen.
I saw a video of yours as well, actually, when you were talking about emotional attachments to investments, and you were saying it's important that you don't think on your emotions and you keep it separate, but it's also vitally important to have options. I think it was your place in Dubai that you put an offer into. You rested for 7-8 weeks and just let it go by. You gave a great offer and you were waiting to hear back, and they were giving counter offers, and you were like, no, the offer is as it stands. But at the same time, whilst that was a great deal, and if you took that would be a huge win. I remember you said you had like 6, 7, maybe 8 different offers, and you were saying like you had no emotions tied in with that offer that you really wanted, because you've given yourself other opportunities and options here.
Absolutely.